Okay, for this section, we are going to talk about capacity. You can also think of this as volume. A lot of times this indicates liquid measurements. It also just indicates like what we use to fill a space, okay? We're going to look at US and metric, and the great news is we don't really have to learn anything new. The process to convert within the US system is the same. The process to convert within the metric system is the same. We just have some new units that we need to learn, okay? So as a just a gentle and quick reminder, dimensional analysis is used to convert within the US system of measure, and it is the process where we multiply one unit of measure by one or more unit fractions to convert to a new unit of measure. And then when we're in the metric system, we're essentially just multiplying and dividing by powers of 10, so we're scooting decimals around. That's really it, okay? Now, when we're in the US system, we're dealing with units of capacity or volume, and we do have several of them. Okay, so if you're in a face-to-face class, your instructor should have given you a formula sheet that you can certainly use. If you're in a fully online class, look around Moodle to see if you have a formula sheet there. Okay, we don't expect you to memorize all of these conversions. We expect you to know how and when to use them. Okay. So in the US system, we use fluid ounces, and fluid ounces are definitely different than pounds and ounces, those kinds of ounces. So they're different in their abbreviation and like what they actually are. So fluid ounces is FL period, OZ period. That's the abbreviation. We have cups, pints, quarts, and gallons. Okay. So let me outline a few conversions here. There are 8 fluid ounces to 1 cup. There are 2 cups to 1 pint. There are 2 pints to 1 quart. And then finally, there are 4 quarts to 1 gallon. Okay. Now, we don't have conversions that take us from like ounces to pints or ounces to quarts or ounces to gallons, but we know that we can use a series of unit fractions. Okay. So in previous worksheets, we looked at maybe multiplying by 2 unit fractions instead of one to do a conversion. Same thing applies here. Okay. So let's see, example one here. Let me scroll up a little bit. So example one here says perform each conversion, include correct units with each answer. So for part A, we have 2.5 gallons to pints. And if you go back to the conversions that I have written up here, we don't have a conversion that takes us directly from pints to gallons, but we can go pints to quarts, quarts to gallons, or we could go quarts to gallons and then quarts to pints. Okay. So the process here for us is going to be just that. We're going to have to use 2 unit fractions. So we're going to go gallons to quarts and then quarts to pints, and that'll do our conversion for us. So let's start with the 2.5 gallons, and I like to just put it over 1. Now, my first unit fraction needs to convert gallons to quarts. So I want gallons in the denominator so that gallons cancel, and I want quarts in the numerator. And then for my second unit fraction, I want the quarts to cancel, so I need quarts in the denominator and pints in the numerator. So let's see what that's going to look like. Well, the gallons cancel, the quarts cancel, and we're left with our desired unit in the numerator, which is exactly what we want. So it's kind of like the last unit standing in our dimensional analysis problem needs to be the one that we're hoping to convert to. So let's fill in some numbers. I know there are 4 quarts to 1 gallon, and there are 2 pints to 1 quart. So when I clean this up, my numerator becomes 2.5 times 4 times 2 pints. And my denominator is really just 1, which doesn't really do anything for us. So let's go to the calculator. Remember, as long as you show me your setup, you can use the calculator for your side work. Okay, my side work being what is 2.5 times 4 times 2. Oh goodness, do I have my calculator? I think that might be it. Yes. Okay, so we have 2.5 times 4 times 2. That we could probably have done in our head or on the side, but let's use the calculator. It's late. So we get 20. Okay, so our final answer here is that 2.5 gallons is equal to 20 pints. And that's it. Okay, now for part B, we have 128 fluid ounces and we want to convert to quarts. So again, if I scroll up a little bit, you can see that we don't have a single conversion that takes us from fluid ounces to quarts, but we do have a conversion that takes us from fluid ounces to cups. We have one that takes us cups to pints, and then another one that takes us pints to quarts. So we're going to have 3 unit fractions here. So fluid ounces to cups, cups to pints, and then pints to quarts. Okay? So let's get started. So you could multiply by a dozen unit fractions if you needed to, if you had something that complicated to work with. Luckily for us, it's not too bad. All right, so we have 128 fluid ounces. I need to convert fluid ounces to cups. I want fluid ounces to cancel, so I want fluid ounces in the denominator, cups in the numerator. And remember, there's 1 cup to every 8 fluid ounces, okay? Now, I need to multiply by another unit fraction where cups will cancel, so I need to convert cups to pints. And remember, there are 2 cups to 1 pint, okay? And then finally, I need to multiply by another unit fraction that is going to convert pints to quarts. So I want pints to cancel, quarts in the numerator, pints in the denominator, and let's look to see what happens. Well, fluid ounces cancel, which is great. Cups cancel, which is great. Pints cancel, which is great. The last man standing is quarts, which is our desired unit. Okay, so let's just clean things up a little bit. So my numerator, I have 128 times 1 times 1. Whoops, I forgot to fill in numbers over here. Remember, there are 2 pints to 1 quart. Okay, were you screaming at me at home? Do y'all do that sometimes? Okay, so there should be 2 pints to 1 quart. So my numerator is really just 128 times 1 times 1 times 1 quarts. So our numerator is just 128 quarts. And then the denominator, we get 1 times 8 times 2 times 2. So 1 times 8 is just 8, and then times 2 times 2. And we can use our calculator to do the side work. So we essentially need 128 divided by 8 times 2 times 2. And if you have a graphing calculator, what I have, you can divide all at once, okay? So I could take 128, that was my numerator, and then I'm going to divide it by the entire denominator, but I need to put my denominator in parentheses, okay? Otherwise, it'll try to divide by the first number and then multiply by the other 2. We don't want that. We want to divide by the entire denominator, which was 8 times 2 times 2. And then that's essentially taking 128 and dividing it by 32. So we end up getting 4. So that tells me that 128 fluid ounces is equal to 4 quarts. And just for fun, if we know that 4 quarts equals 1 gallon, this would secretly really just be 1 gallon of whatever. Okay, we weren't asked for gallons, we were just asked for quarts, but let's just play around. So there you have it. I do think since all of this is pretty much review, like even though we're dealing with new units, we've done all of these types of problems before. Instead of doing multiple videos, I'll just do 2 videos. I'll do 1 video for all of the US stuff and then 1 for the metric stuff. Okay, so we'll keep going. So example 2 says convert the mixed units, include correct answers with each, or include correct units with each answer. So part A, we have convert 50 fluid ounces. And we want to convert it to cups, and then whatever we have left over will be fluid ounces. Okay, so we're going to start this just like we would a regular old problem. I've got 50 fluid ounces. I want to multiply by a unit fraction that relates fluid ounces and cups, and I want my fluid ounces to be the one that cancels. So I want to multiply by 1 cup over 8 fluid ounces. Okay, so the fluid ounces do cancel, leaving a cup in the numerator. And instead of dividing this into the calculator, which would just give us a decimal, we're going to do some just long division. Okay, so let's clean this up. My numerator is 50 times 1, so I get 50 cups divided by 1 times 8. So off to the side, I'm going to do 50 divided by 8. I don't really need my calculator for this one. 8 goes into 50, I know, 6 times. So 6 times 8 is 48. I'm going to subtract. I get 2. Now remember, when we do this type of problem where we're breaking one unit into like 2 other units, we use long division. And the quotient is the larger of the units, and the remainder is the smaller of the units. So that tells me that 50 fluid ounces is 6 whole cups with 2 fluid ounces left over. So this would be my final answer. Okay, now for part B, we have 3 gallons, 3 quarts. So that's like one whole measure. That's like one big old batch of, I don't know, like punch or something. And we want to convert it to just quarts. Okay, and we can totally do this. What we need to do is understand that this is like 3 gallons plus 3 quarts. So I want to convert 3 gallons to quarts and then just add that to the 3 quarts that I already had. So we have 3 gallons. I need to multiply that by a unit fraction that relates quarts and gallons. So I know there are 4 quarts for each gallon. So I want to make sure gallons are in the denominator so they'll cancel, and then quarts are in the numerator so that that's my final unit. So gallons cancel, quarts are in the numerator just like I wanted. And then we can just multiply across. I get 3 times 4, which is just 12 quarts. And then my denominator is just 1, so that just tells me I have 12 quarts. Okay? So this is now 12 quarts plus 3 quarts, which means I have a total of 15 quarts. Okay? So make sure you know how to do both of those conversions where you take one single unit and break it into mixed units, or you take mixed units and then convert it to just a single unit. Okay? And then I think we have one more. Yeah, we have one more for this video. So this is where we add and subtract mixed units. Okay, so in this case, we're going to subtract mixed units, but then I have another one where we're going to multiply mixed units. So that's a little bit new. Okay, so example 3 says perform the indicated operation, include correct. I think that should say correct units. That must be a typo. Is that what happened in the last one? Let me see. Just a bug for that one. No, that one says units. I don't know why I have answers twice, but it's a typo. It should say correct units with each answer. Okay, so we have 12 cups, 2 fluid ounces, and from that we want to subtract 3 cups, 7 fluid ounces. So I have 12 cups, 2 fluid ounces, and from that I'm going to subtract 3 cups. So line up your like units. So line up cups, line up fluid ounces. And we have the same old situation that we had in the previous 2 worksheets. I cannot take 7 fluid ounces from 2 fluid ounces. So yay, we get to borrow. So we're going to borrow 1 full cup, okay, from the first value or the first set of values. So we're going to borrow 1 cup from 12. That makes 12 cups, 11 cups. And I'm going to add that 1 cup that I just borrowed to my 2 fluid ounces. But please remember, 1 cup is really 8 fluid ounces. So let's clean things up a little bit. We have 11 cups, and I have 2 fluid ounces plus 1 cup. But remember, 1 cup is just 8 fluid ounces. So 2 ounces plus 8 fluid ounces is 10 fluid ounces. And from that, we want to subtract 3 cups and 7 fluid ounces. And now we can subtract like units. So I can take 7 fluid ounces from 10. That leaves me 3 fluid ounces. And then 11 cups minus 3 cups, that is just 8 cups. So we have 8 cups, 3 fluid ounces. Okay? Now for part B, this one's a little bit different. In the previous 2 worksheets, we did an addition problem and then a subtraction problem. Here, we're going to do a multiplication problem. Okay? So I have 5 cups, 3 fluid ounces, and I want to multiply that by 7. So when I say 5 cups, 3 fluid ounces times 7, that quite literally means multiply. And we want to write the final answer as just fluid ounces, okay? So think of this almost as like distributing, okay? So I want to take my 5 cups and multiply that by 7, and then I want to take my 3 fluid ounces and multiply that by 7. So 5 times 7 gives me 35 cups. 3 times 7 gives me 21 fluid ounces. And the question told us to write the final answer as fluid ounces. So I need to convert 35 cups to just fluid ounces and then add that to the 21 fluid ounces that we already have. So I've got 35 cups. I want to multiply that by a unit fraction that relates fluid ounces and cups. I want cups in the denominator so they cancel. So I'm going to have 8 fluid ounces over 1 cup. And as hoped, the cups cancel and we're left with fluid ounces in the numerator. Okay? So that, if I clean up, I get 35 times 8 fluid ounces over just 1. So we could certainly do 38 times 5. That wouldn't be that hard to do, but we can also jump over to the calculator. So if I go to the calculator, we want to multiply 35 times 8. So we're going to let the calculator do our side work. So 35 times 8 is 280. All right, so that tells me that the 35 cups is really 280 fluid ounces. So I'm right here. I'm back to this point. So we know 35 cups is 280 fluid ounces. We want to add that to the 21 fluid ounces that we already had. So how many fluid ounces do we have total? Well, 280 plus 21 is 301 fluid ounces. So if we have 5 cups, 3 fluid ounces, we multiply it by 7, we get a total of 301 fluid ounces. Okay, so that is everything that we have for this worksheet with the US system of measurement for capacity. I'm going to do just one more video and we're going to do everything else. So the metric system and then any application problems in that second video.